Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Scottish on the home side, half English on the away side. Out of the two breweries involved in this one, it is only the Scottish brewery that's featured on the channel before, and I would say that these guys are very, very well respected these days. Still quite a new addition to the Scottish beer scene, and particularly well known for their New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, although in recent times they have been diversifying quite a little bit and trying lots of different things. The English brewery, on the other hand, are very, very small, just a little brew pub and bar from what I understand, but they are pretty experimental and their beers have had very good write-ups, so quite cool that we can feature them on the channel at such an early point in their history, and collaboration beers always prove to be quite interesting as well in my experience. But the beer itself is a style that I know the home brewery can do very, very well. I've heard very good things about this particular beer too, and it is one that I've been sitting on for a couple of months actually. So this beer kind of got pushed to the back of the fridge and I just forgot about it. So it is about time that we review this one, but I have to say I am quite curious to see how it turns out. So hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for the home side of things then, we are going to return to the motherland of Scotland. We're going to go to Glasgow in the west, and to Yoker to be precise. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Overtone Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called All or Nothing. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this is another New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So this beer is brewed in collaboration with Brewery Bar, who are from Manchester in the middle of England. And as I said earlier, these guys have not featured on the channel before, but they do have quite an interesting history, which we'll come to a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, if memory serves me correctly, this beer was released in May or so of 2022 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. I think it was actually brewed in April of 2022 by Overtone, if I remember correctly, but it will take a little bit of time to get here to Sweden, of course. So yeah, we are reviewing this one a little bit later than we should. You know, New England IPAs are always good for the first kind of 2-3 months or so, but I think it will make for quite an interesting experiment to see how these Overtone beers hold up. But like I said, I've heard very good things about this particular beer, and Overtone have never let us down in the past. So yeah, let's just crack on with this and see what it's going to have in store for us. The All or Nothing, Overtone Brewing in Glasgow, and Brewery Bar in Manchester. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Overtone Brewing Company before, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Brewery Bar. Very first time they are featuring on the channel, as I mentioned. Maybe we can do an out and about video there in the future. We'll need to see. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. Just go into the homepage, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever in there. And if you want to learn more about beers from your local area, type it in. If I've reviewed them, they will pop up. Otherwise, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. And yeah, there's ones for lots of different countries there that are constantly being added to. But yeah, let's go on then and have a little chat about the breweries. We'll start with Overtone Brewing first, since they are the home brewery in this instance. So, Overtone Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Glasgow in the west of Scotland, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Bo Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he'd been a home brewer for a number of years before he founded the brewery, and his beers got really good feedback from friends, and it was this that helped him decide to turn professional. But the name Overtone comes from Bo Wai's love of techno music, and this is also the inspiration behind the artwork that you'll see on most of the cans. But Bo Wai hired Dan Miller, who is from New Hampshire in New England in the northeastern US, to come in as his head brewer. And he had previously worked as a head chef, but also as a brewer in England, New York, and also in Scotland for 6 Degrees North, who are a very nice Belgian brewery based in the sort of Lawrence Kirk and Stonehaven areas in the northeast. But also involved at the brewery is Martin Connaghan, who worked in the craft beer scene in New Zealand for a number of years. He takes part in the brewing, but does a lot of other things as well. And these days, Charlie is also involved in the brew team. And he comes from a background of home brewing and previously worked for another local brewery in Glasgow as well. But the brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker near Renfrew and Clydebank. And they began their operations there back in 2018. But they don't have a fixed range of beers as such, and they're always brewing different things. Over the years, though, they have become very well known for their New England Hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. And their beers really started to gain traction when they got them down into the English bottle shops. At least that's what I found. I tried their beers, 2018, 2019, but it was only about 2020 or so that, if I remember correctly, the Overtone really started to get the hype. And that was because their beers went down to England. Of course, then you've got a lot more people talking about the stuff that they're doing. In recent times, though, they have been doing a lot of imperial stouts and a good number of sour beers as well. I've had some really nice West Coast IPAs from them, and they have been doing lagers and stuff like that too. But as of January 2023, when we're filming this review for you, these guys have produced just over 115 different kinds of beer, and they will no doubt continue to add to that over the next little while. But that is everything I can really tell you about Overtone Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So let's go on to the away side of things then. So we'll go down to England for this one. So Ull Brewery and Bar. So Ull Brewery and Bar, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Manchester, and this company is associated with the Tack Coffee Roastery, which is an Icelandic-inspired coffee bar that was founded by Philip Hanaway and David McCall back in 2012. Tack, of course, is spelled T-A-K-K, which is the Icelandic word for thank you. But in 2017, it was announced that Tack would open 2 new spaces at the New Circle development on Oxford Road in Manchester, and one of these would be a second coffee bar called Hatch, and the second space would be a Nordic-style nano brewery called Ull, which is, of course, the Swedish word for beer, actually, although it is Norwegian and Danish as well. But the spelling that these guys use is the Swedish one. But Hatch is run by Ricardo Gandara from Tack, while Ull is run by Dave Fulder, who is also involved with the Burn the Cake brewery. But in 2021, they also founded the Kerb Natural Wine Bar in the Ancoats area, which is quite interesting, and that maybe is somewhere that I do need to check out as well. But yeah, these guys, it is basically like one of the little sub companies of an umbrella company that does specialist coffee, specialist beer, and natural wine and things. So they are quite an interesting little outfit. But as of January 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, Ull have produced around 20 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And if you look at the pictures of this place, it is almost like, it is really just kind of like it looks like, a couple of porta cabins or whatever that have been kind of glued together, and they've got a nice big window and just a little couple of 100 litres brew kit in there, and they're experimenting with lots of different things. So just a very, very small operation, like I said, and trying lots of different little experimental brews. So quite cool to be able to feature a brewery like this here on the channel at such an early stage in their history. So maybe when I make it over to Manchester eventually to do some more filming, we will need to go and check out Ull Brewery and Bar and see what they've got on. But that is everything I can really tell you about Ull Brewery and Bar. You can also check out Tack, Hatch and Kerb as well, and they're all associated with this company. But yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Untappd pages if you want to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So let's go on then and have a wee look at the beer itself. So I honestly couldn't tell you what I paid for this beer, but you can see the artwork on this one is very, very similar to what we've seen from Overtone before, but yeah, white and black this time. Plain silver top on the can. You can see the Overtone, the usual Overtone stuff on the side here, Ull in Swedish, or nothing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this beer was also released through Systembolaget here in Sweden, and probably the reason it was picked was because of that, Ull. But yeah, it tells you on the side here, brewed in collaboration with Ull Nano Brewery and Bar, a double dry hop, double IPA with Citra Kohatu and Nelson Sauvin for huge tropical aroma and intense floral and citrus flavours. So yeah, this one, as I said, 8% New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. The hops in this one, Citra Kohatu and Nelson Sauvin. Citra, of course, is an American hop, 14% alpha acid, big juicy mango notes in my experience, but also with a good little bit of lemon lime. In New England IPAs, Kohatu comes from New Zealand, about 7% alpha acid. It's quite sort of floral and slightly piney from what I remember, but I remember it also has quite a little bit of a pineapple-y character to it. And then Nelson Sauvin is the kind of cult classic New Zealand hop, 16% alpha acid, and it gives you that sort of gooseberry, white, green, grapey sort of thing. So this should be really quite interesting, but like I said, I've heard very good things about this beer. It is a little bit older, so it will be quite interesting to see how this one is held up after a couple of months in the can. But yeah, all or nothing, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's going to have in store for us. It has behaved itself as we've opened up the can. I was a bit worried about that, but we'll get it out into the glass and see what we have. So there we go. I think we've got some really nice things going on with this one actually. So yeah, I have to say that does look very impressive. So before the head disappears on this beer, then it's poured pretty much exactly as you would expect from a New England hazy of any description. But before the head disappears, we can see that it's poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. One or two bigger bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass down here, and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there, but I think it is going to fade away to be a nice kind of thinner foamy layer as time goes on. But the head, yeah, lovely kind of creamy colour there. You can see a mix of medium-sized bubbles at the bottom there and a few bigger ones further up, but yeah, it does look very, very nice actually, this one. I do like how it goes together. So yeah, nothing really else to say about the head of this beer. In terms of the appearance though, it does look very, very nice. So in terms of the colour, I would describe this one as being like a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice, but it's still quite bright. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour of the beer as well. But you don't normally have to care about those two variables when it comes to IPAs of any description. The level of haze in this one though is pretty impressive. This is quite a soupy, gloopy leaning New England IPA, and the level of haze in these beers is down to the oak content and wheat content for the most part, but the yeast will also play a role in this one. But yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together actually. It is pretty nice in that sense. Yeah, definitely a nice big soupy gloopy kind of tropical fruit juice leaning New England IPA. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about the appearance of this one, other than that the head has faded away to just be a nice kind of thin foamy layer. But yeah, it looks good, I have to say. So we can take a wee look at the aroma of this one now then and see what it's going to have in store for us. So yeah, let's do that. Oh yeah, that does smell pretty nice actually. On first impression, it has got a good little bit of like a kind of farmhousey, yeasty character to it. But then if you sugar it up a little bit more, you start to get some lovely kind of sweetness, and you start to get some lovely sweetness and creaminess out of the malt base in there. So yeah, green component is quite soft as you'd expect from a New England, and you've also got the lovely juicy fruity characters in there. For me, as I've always said, New England IPAs tend to have 6 different elements to them that you should think about. You know, the sort of farmhousey yeasty character, the rye leaning grainy sort of things. Those are a bit more prominent in American brewed New England IPAs in my experience though. But then you've got wheaty bitiness, barley malt bread, oaty creaminess, and also the sweeter side of things. So all these New England IPAs will show you, they will show you a little bit of, they will show you varying levels of each of these. But yeah, aroma wise, this one is showing you is showing you a little bit of everything, which is quite interesting. So yeah, keep an eye on that with your New England IPAs. But yeah, this does smell really nice. I'm very curious to see how it comes out in the actual flavour. But let's try and break that aroma down for you a wee bit more and just describe it more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of the beer then, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one there. That is absolutely the backbone of this beer. Above that, you've got some Jacob's cream cracker. There's a little bit of a kind of, there is a little bit of a sort of woody and yeah, there is just a little touch of woody character to this one further forward on those. So yeah, bread crust, crackery notes, a little bit of kind of woody character to it as well. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in that sense is really nice, and as I say, it leans a little bit more toward that kind of yeasty character too. So you are getting some farmhousey and yeasty characteristics out of this one, but definitely some lovely wholemeal. Definitely some lovely wholemeal brown bready character in there too. A lot of fresh, fluffy white bread in there, but you can smell the wheat kind of densifying this beer out too. But interestingly, the wheaty character, normally the wheat would give you a little bit of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. But actually this one's very, very smooth in a sense. You can just smell the wheat just densifying out. The wheat sort of densifies out the whole beer. Yeah, you've got that lovely kind of smoothening, densifying, wheaty kind of character coming out of this one. But then you've also got a good little bit of an oaty, creamy note sitting on top of that too. One of the things I've always said about New England IPAs as well is that the oaty side of the beer is usually a good indicator of how old your beer is, because the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is, and you can smell a little bit of that going on in this beer. So you've got a good little bit of dryness to the oaty character, but you've also got that big kind of creamy note to it as well. So yeah, the creamy oaty side of this beer I think is very, very nice. So yeah, you get a bit of the sweet kind of creamy character in there, but you also get a little bit of the dryness. So you can tell this beer is not at its optimum freshness, and the wheat of course is kind of densifying it out too, but I think these kind of dry oaty notes are contributing a little bit to what I was interpreting as kind of farmhousey yeasty character. So that's also worth bearing in mind with this one. So yeah, as I say, this is a bit of an experiment, this review too, with seeing how these beers hold up over time. But other than that, you do get a little bit of that sweet kind of butterscotchy, butter candy type note out of this one. I'm pretty sure there's golden promise malt in this beer, just from the notes, because there's a little bit of biscuit, there's a little bit of butterscotch. Yeah, these are things that you would come to expect of this particular beer style. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the malty side of things and have a wee look at the green component. So for me, the green component, as you often get with New England IPAs, is actually quite bright and a little touch zesty. So yeah, a little bit of that going on. So yeah, you've got a little touch of, you do have a little touch of earthiness in there, which I'd be curious to know which of the hops that's coming from, but yeah, I do get a little touch of earthiness. There's a wee bit of herbal character in there, some nice bright kind of floral notes as well, and a bit of grassiness, and I would say that overall the green component does lean toward the grassy side of things. So yeah, that would be it for me, but the fruity side of the beer is exactly what you would expect of these hops if you know them quite well. On the fruity side of things, lots of juicy mango, but there's a little touch of a more intense passion fruit behind that, dry apricots in there, a little bit of pineapple from the Kohatu, I would say as well. I don't know if the Kohatu would contribute to the apricot, but yeah, you've got that little bit of apricot and that little bit of pineapple in there too, but you also get that big oily kind of gooseberry, white green grapey note from the Nelson Sauvin too. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Aroma wise, this beer is pretty interesting. To me it smells like a more kind of creamy, oaty sort of New England IPA. So we just need to see how it turns out in the flavour. But as I always say, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we try this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the All or Nothing, an 8% New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Overtone Brewing Company in Glasgow in the motherland of Scotland, and Nano Brewery Bar in Manchester in the middle of England. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Now I'm going to say straight away, this beer has held up impressively well. It really has. As I say, I'm pretty sure this beer was released through Systembolaget here in Sweden. I'm sure that we got this in about May or April or something like that. And so it's been in my fridge for like, what, a bit more, like 7-8 months. That really has held up very well. So I'm just going to say straight away, thumbs up to Overtone Brewing for this. This is really pretty damn good actually, even as it stands. So yeah, you know, we expect a good quality beer, especially a New England IPA from Overtone, but I'm just impressed with how well this has stood up actually. So that's quite an interesting observation for sure. But yeah, first impression of this beer, very smooth, very creamy, New England double IPA. This one, I think this is quite an oaty leaning affair, this beer. But it gives you everything you would want. You've got a nice light green component to this one. You've also got a little bit of sweetness in the malt base there as well. And yeah, you've got that lovely juicy fruity character that you would expect of the New England IPAs as well. Yeah. So I think this is, for me, this is quite interesting, I have to say. But thumbs up to both Overtone and Nano Brewery Bar for this beer. Let's just break this down though and actually describe it for you in the way that we always do. So, for me then, middle third of your palate with this beer. The middle third of your palate with this beer, you've got a lovely little bit of a fresh white bready bread crust just forming the backbone of the beer. Above that, you do get a little bit of the Jacob's cream crackery dryness and a little bit of woody character toward the front of that middle third of your palate. But then above all of that, you start to get the big bready notes out of the beer. You've got some lovely, wholemeal brown bready character in there. And then you have the kind of fluffy white bready notes from the barley malt. I really do like that actually. So yeah, lovely wholemeal brown bread, fluffy white bread, and then you can feel a slightly denser layer. You can feel a slightly more dense layer of smooth wheaty character just coming above that, which I think is really, really nice too. Yeah, I do like how this that goes together in this one. The wheaty character in this beer is actually just very, very smoothing, and this is really quite a thick and creamy New England IPA, one of the thickest and creamiest ones that I've come across in quite a wee while. I would be curious to see how this one would taste completely fresh actually, but you can tell with this one it is just standing up to time very, very well. So yeah, I said the wholemeal, the white bread, the wheat, the smooth wheaty layer. Then you've got, above all of that, the oaty side of things. So as I've always said, oats are a good indicator of how old your New England IPA is. So if you go down the middle line of your tongue in this beer, you can feel there's a nice kind of creamy sort of thing with this one. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you've got that old, you've got that lovely old adage of just like nice big creamy oats going down the middle line of your tongue. And then as you move further out toward the edge of the as you move further out toward the edge of your palate there, you can feel the oats just getting that little bit drier. And like I say, that dry oaty character in this one for me is the indicator of the fact that this beer is just a little touch older, to be honest with you. So yeah, you notice that in this beer quite well. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in that particular regard. Yeah, as I say, I do like how it goes together. Above the oaty layer, you start to get some of the sweet elements out of this beer. So in the dead centre of your palate, you get that little circle there where you get the Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing coming out of the beer. So yeah, there is a bit of that concentrated Werther's Original note there, and as you move further out from it, it starts to become a little bit more kind of like McVitie's digestive biscuity for sure. So that's kind of what I'm getting out of this one. But yeah, I do like how that pieces together. Yeah, the malty, the middle third of your palate on this one is quite nice, and like I say, I'm really surprised at how well this beer has held up actually. So it's good. In terms of the middle third of the palate, though, it is quite nice and quite dense. On the back third of the palate, though, we'll move there now. You can feel that border region between middle and back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of bready build-up in there. It is quite a white bready character, but the base of the back third of the palate, you've got more of the kind of bread crusty note there. It's a little bit drier. You've also got the Jacob's cream cracker on top of that, and again, that's a little bit drier. As I've always said, for me, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, whereas sweeter and juicier flavours come out further forward. So yeah, definitely a little bit of a drier kind of bread crusty note in there, the Jacob's cream cracker on top of that, and then above all of that you've got that fluffy white bready note coming out of the beer too. So actually underneath, on top of the cream cracker, you've got a more airy wholemeal brown bready character, then you've got the fluffy white bready note sitting on top of that. But yeah, they're all quite tall and they're all quite airy, and then above all of that you've got a little bit more of a wheaty character, and you do actually get a little bit of bitiness out of the wheat on the back of the tongue as well. So yeah, you've got that lovely wheaty bitiness there above the kind of the white bready character in there too, and above all of that you've got that more airy yeasty kind of note coming out of the beer. You've got a little bit of that farmhousey white bready note in there. It's almost a little touch woody, but you've also got little elements of kind of honeycomb mixing in with that as well. So yeah, you've got the nice kind of taller, you definitely have the sort of taller flavours on the back third of your palate. Then as you come further forward, they just condense down and squash together that little bit more into the middle third of your palate there. So yeah, I like the way that goes together. Yeah, on the I think that's everything we need to do about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness coming out of this one, and that's quite interesting. I'm not sure exactly what hop that would come from, but as you move further forward, you get a little touch of herbal character, and as you push toward the front corner of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of floral and bright in a sense, and round the front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy. But as I've always said, with these New England IPAs, you need to think about what type of hopping is used. So when it comes to brewing IPAs, there are three types of hopping. Early addition hopping within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness. Late addition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you a little touch of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma. And then dry hopping after the wort boil is complete, that's all about the flavour and aroma. West Coast IPAs tended to use all three back in the day, whereas New England IPAs these days tend to rely on the latter two. So yeah, you've got a little bit of that going on, but you can tell from the brightness of the green component in this one and the softness that it's late edition and dry hops that go on here. If it had early edition hop, it would be a lot danker than it is. But at the same time, we do have to remember, I've had this beer a couple of months. But yeah, the brightness of the green component in this one for me, and the fact it's New England, it's most likely late edition and dry hopping in this one. But it works, it really does. So, on the on the grassy side of things with this beer, it's a little touch zesty on the front curve of the tongue. But if you look at the front third of your palate, this is where most of the fruity notes come out of the beer. So for me, the front third of your palate, you've got that nice you've got that border region between front and middle third of your palate. You get that little bit of bready build up in there. You've got a little touch of you've got a little touch of that kind of soft white bready note in there, but you can feel some of the oaty character there too, and the base of that front third of your palate is more the front third of your palate is more soft and bready, and also you've got a little bit of the oaty character just sitting in there too. Above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity character of the beer starts to come out. So yeah, let's just look at those fruity characteristics and see what we've got. But yeah, the juicy fruity notes in this beer are really nice. At the back of that front third of your palate then, there's definitely a little touch of that stronger, more pungent passion fruit, but as you come further forward, you get this lovely, juicy and quite ripe mango character. And as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you start to get like a soft apricot-y character underneath, and then a bit of pineapple on top, and then the front half of that front third of your palate is all about the Nelson Sauvignon, that white green grapey gooseberry type character. So this is quite nice. I mean, Citra and Nelson Sauvignon always go together very well themselves, but I think the Kohatu is just adding a little bit more kind of light pineapple and apricot into the fruity side of the beer, which suits the malty characteristics of this. But I have to say, this beer at 8-9 months old, however old it actually is, this has held up exceptionally well, and it's still in very, very good condition and a very nice drinking experience. So that is quite an interesting one. I wasn't sure whether I should review this beer or not, but now that we've done the tasting part, I certainly don't regret sitting down and filming this one on the channel. But I think we can leave it at that for the tasting. Let's just round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So, the mouthfeel with this one for me, the more that I drink of it, I said initially it was quite creamy, but it's actually got a good balance between being creamy and sort of oily at the same time. It's leaning toward the top end of mid-bodied for me. The carbonation is very, very smooth. As I said, the malt base has a little bit of graininess to it, but mainly very smooth in the middle, quite creamy, and also a little bit of sweetness on top. You've got some lovely juicy fruity characters coming out of this beer as well, and I really do like how this goes together. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. So very, very impressed with this one, I have to say. I do like how Overtone and Nano Brewery Bar have Nano Brewery, I'm talking Swedish now, so Nano Brewery and Bar have come together on this one. This is a really, really nice beer, and I can see why it's so highly rated. I think this is one of the higher rated ones that Overtone have done, but I was told very good things about this one. But we've had great beers from Overtone over the years anyway, so yeah, quite impressed with this, particularly how well it's stood the test of time over the months that I've had it. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Ool or Nothing, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Overtone Brewing in Glasgow in collaboration with the Nano Brewery and Bar from from Manchester in England. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Overtone and from Nano Brewery Bar as well in Manchester, and we will hopefully be able to return to both of these breweries at some point in the near future. But a really impressive beer, particularly so when you consider how old it is. But until the next time, slange it, Scott. Cheers. Check out my social media, check out the brewery social media, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Slange it, Skull. See you guys later.